what I recommend is that you really just listen to more people like us have these conversations and realize that we don't talk about tactical things. We're not talking about how long the video should be and what your thumbnail should be and, what your bidding strategy is on Facebook. It's all about mindset and implementation and the strategy of business, not the tactics.
Over 1,700 new millionaires are created every single day in the US alone, and more than double that across the globe. They're people from all walks of life, most of them people just like you and I. So the big question is this: how are so many people who didn't inherit money or have any special advantages overcoming the odds and becoming millionaires? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Lerner, and welcome to Millionaire Secrets.
Welcome to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. Jeff Lerner with you, as always, excited to dig into the mind and life of world-class, successful people. In this case, it is James Neilson Watt. He is the CEO of Health Business Accelerator. And as I understand it, he is and was certainly planning to be a health practitioner, but quickly realized that he was so good at growing health practice businesses that maybe he could help other health practitioners do the same. And I believe that's what he actually does full time now. I was a guest on James's podcast, which is, I believe, Healthcare Business Secrets, about a month ago. And we had an extraordinary conversation, which I'm excited to resume today. James, welcome to Millionaire Secrets.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here. It's going to be a real good episode. I'm looking forward to it. We had a good flow on the show.
I'm not going to bungle it this time. You're down in New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
Tremendous. Did I tell you on our last episode that I'm taking my son to New Zealand as soon as we're basically allowed to go?
Yeah, New Zealand's beautiful. I recommend, if you haven't already planned it, you need to visit the South Island and go down to Queenstown. I got married in Queenstown, and absolutely beautiful. It's where they filmed a whole lot of the Lord of the Rings.
Cool. Well, that certainly fits the plan, because we're trying to go as far south as possible. Because I asked my son just finished high school. He got a 4.0 in his last semester, and I was just beaming and feeling like a proud dad. And I was like, son, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? And he said, I would want to go see the lights, either northern or southern lights.
Yeah.
And of the places we could find, we just kind of landed on New Zealand as the spot. So we'll be going as far south as we can to try to see what's that? Aurora Australis, I believe.
Yeah. I think you can see that quite south of New Zealand. Yeah.
Cool.
Never been myself.
No, well, I'll let you know how it is. We're going to go there as soon as COVID allows us to. Now, to pick up, to just kind of jump right in here, we were chatting before the show, and you made a comment that, like, I actually totally relate to, but I don't want to just assume that your story is the same as mine. You made a comment about how you're about to have your second child in, 3 or 4 weeks, and that your first baby made you $1 million. That's what you said. And that hopefully your second baby, God willing, will 10x that, right? But tell me how your first baby made you $1 million. That's probably a cool story to start with.
Yeah, well, let me kind of pre-frame. I was a health professional for 5 or so years, grew a practice, was doing very well, but got stuck in, I wanted to have a different kind of lifestyle. I wanted to travel more. I didn't want to just continue in my practice and slave away. And I wanted to do bigger things. And so with baby coming, I thought, well, I want to be at home with my kid. Like, I don't want to be working all the time in my practice. I was doing well, but it didn't fill me up. It didn't give me energy. I was just good at it, but it was neutral. And so I was dabbling in the internet stuff, and you get into the world of everything, right? You start looking at drop shipping and flipping, whatever.
Right.
And I'm like trying to figure this thing out. And then I realized, like, hey, I'm pretty good at, growing my clinic, but I never thought about, like, when something's, you're good at something, but you don't know that you're good at it, so to speak, relative to everyone else. And so you just think that it's easy and that it isn't valuable because I guess I just figured it out. I just watched a whole lot of videos and spent, 5 years mastering this thing. Anyone can do that. I didn't realize that it's actually very difficult for most people, and how far ahead of the curve that I was relative to the rest of the people that I was speaking with, or, in my profession. And so I started down this road of, like, I'm just going to show some people some stuff. And I charged, like, no money for it. right? Embarrassingly low amount of money. Looking back, I'm like, people who said no to me, like they're lunatics,
Right.
because the value is insane. And so we get to this point, and I'm thinking like, I'm going to start this coaching thing, and I'm dabbling in it. My baby's born Christmas Eve, 2018. I start my coaching business. I'm dabbling in it in kind of January. I kind of really go, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to get some clients now. I'm not just going to make some posts about it. February, I kind of kick this thing off, and my goal is I'm going to make $100,000 a year from my course, my coaching, or whatever. Because I told my wife, babe, if I make $100,000 a year from this on the internet, can I quit? Can I not be in clinic anymore? And she said, if you can make $100,000, we can talk about it. I went, okay. Now, bearing in mind, I'm making a lot more money than that being in practice, but I just hated it. And I'm like, I'm going to make $100,000. Within 2 months, I made $100,000. And I'm like, well, this thing's working.
Right.
And within 8 months, I'd hit $100,000 a month. 7 or 8 months, I hit $100,000 a month. That year, I hit 120 was my top. A couple months later, I hit 180. Like, it's been absolute rocket ship. And this all, I think, comes from the fact that I had a kid and I realized I have so much free time. And now that I have a baby, it's all gone. I've got to be efficient. And so I was getting up 4 a.m. in the morning, doing sales calls because all my clients are in the US, going to clinic at 8 a.m., coming back at lunchtime, doing some sales calls, going back to work, coming home, doing some business stuff, going to bed at like 11. I got a baby who's waking up multiple times a night, getting back up at 4 a.m. And I did that for like 12 months, but I had so much energy and fuel and was just rocking and rolling because there was this creature that I now had to take care of, and I had to make things work. And I also suddenly, out of nowhere, got ridiculously efficient. Like I understand, but I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like I had this kid, and immediate was like, most people say, oh, kid takes up all your time and, you know, you're gonna have no time. I felt like I got more time because I realized how much I was wasting on stuff and how much more efficient I had to be because I actually had to get the things done. So instead of taking 2 hours to do the thing, I got it done in 20 minutes because it was like I had to, because baby's going to cry, baby's going to need me, you know, wife's going to need me. And so that the baby came and my business just took off because I had this immense focus and unquestioned drive because I had to make it work. Because I said, I love this kid and I want to be around it all the time. And I cannot spend my life in clinic. And so I just went for it. And so the second kid's coming, I'm thinking, man, it's going to be good.
Well, there is so much to unpack in the story you just told. I will share briefly that my experience was very similar, and that I would have been accurate in sort of connecting your story to my story. I had it was my fourth kid, but it was the first one that I got to be there for as an infant, because the other three I adopted at various ages. But I didn't get those first 2 years. My youngest daughter I met when she had just turned 2. So I never got those first 2 years. So for me, having my fourth kid, it was actually kind of like my first. Like, I want to be there while it's this little blob of, mush and growing and imprinting dad. And everything that led to the business that I'm in now was literally sparked by some conversations around how can I be home with this kid. And I think that's true. By the way, I've heard that story from numerous entrepreneurial dads. There's something about, and maybe this is something we can hone in on, like dad energy, like the energy that comes from being a dad. It just wakes something up inside you. And I love that you called it out. You called out your pre-dad self as like, that guy was really inefficient. That guy wasted a lot of time. He took an hour to do 20 minutes of work. Because my experience as a coach, and I don't want to assume, but I'll bet this is something you hone in on with your customers, your coaching clients, is most people have so much more room for productivity in their life, even when they already think they're being productive. And most doctors, I would assume, think they're pretty productive people, right? So am I on when I say that?
100%. Like people don't get that universally, and I'm repeating what people say all the time, right? But like people don't get how universal time is as a resource, and that we all get the same amount. It's just what you do with it. and they don't get how they are in the way of themselves 99% of the time, and that those blocks they have, their lack of creativity, they don't know what they should focus on. That's like, for me, that's all your fault. You know what I mean? You sort that shit out, and like the world's your oyster, because you suddenly realize that, man, this 1 hour of time for one person is, to Jeff Bezos, an hour of time is worth, $1 billion or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
To you, it might be worth $10. How do we make that hour worth something more? By leveraging the resources that you effectively have. People don't invest in coaching programs because they think that they're, they've either they don't have the time for it, or they don't have the money. And I'm like, dude, your time is a resource you don't get back. So pay me so I can save you 6 months of your life. You know what I mean? And in 5 years from now, that 6 months will be worth $1 million instead of 6 months being worth nothing right now. So just do it, because people just don't get it. So when they're looking at their lives and they're thinking, man, I'm busy, I've got all these things going on, it's busy work. It's not productive. And there's a massive difference between being busy and being productive. And like, I go to the gym 4 times a week with a personal trainer. I'm with my kid. I've got obviously a kid, a wife, another kid on the way. I run a clinic. I've got my coaching business. I'm recording a podcast. I still get to watch Netflix at night. I watch an hour of Netflix just for fun. Like, I'm still living my life. I've just deprioritized things that will not get me to where I want to be, and prioritize things that I enjoy, want to do. And that's allowed me to have, for me, everything that I want, because I've allocated my time effectively, just like you would your bank account. You know where your money's going. So think about where your time's going and treat it like it's being given to you and you're spending it, but you're just spending it by default, and it's going to be spent no matter what. So just allocate it more effectively. That's a
great point. Imagine logging in your bank account, and there's like and I've had this happen. There'll be like a $5 charge that I don't know what it is, and it just bugs me. And I'm like, I got to get to the bottom of this. And frankly, where I'm at now in my life, $5 as correlated to time is a very small increment of time, but it's the principle. I want to know who took my $5, and I won't rest until I know. And yet, what if I do I have somewhere in my day that costs me 20 minutes? That's worth a hell of a lot more than $5 for just about anyone. And yet we don't even think twice about it. We see it in our bank account. We freak out. Oh, somebody's got my card. I've been hacked. But somebody's got my time. My life has been hacked. I don't hear most people complaining about that, but it actually, you should be a lot more concerned about $500 worth of time than you are about $5 that went missing from your bank account, right?
Because we don't get it. We don't get that time is finite. Like, you've got a bank account of time. I might have $1 million in my bank account, and you might have $1,000 in your bank account. But I know that, and I can see it, and you know that, and you can see it. So we then do act differently or not. But you don't know if you've got 60 years of time in your bank account, or you've got 6 months of time in your bank account. And that's why people have these realizations when they have near-death experiences, or they find out that they're sick, because they go, oh shit, it's finite. Oh, there's an end. Oh, I got a bank account. My savings is depleted. Like, they get it. And so immediately they treat it like a resource that they should. And so I try and, like, it's hard because the brain doesn't process that very well. You can't comprehend that, right? But you have to live as if, like, as morbid as it sounds, you have to live as if it is going to run out very, very soon.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
It just makes you do stuff better. And then you achieve more. And if you do live 90 years, the 90 years were more full.
Right.
Then if you were treating them like you had 500, and it's like, oh man, I watched every season of everything on Netflix. But I didn't do anything important in my life.
Well, yeah. And it's like time. I mean, literally most of the people I work with, I mean, we can do a very quick audit and figure out how much of their time is basically being stolen. But the reality is, it's being stolen, but you didn't even lock the door. So like, in fact, you left the door wide open. You can't really be that as mad at the burglar that walked into an open door and was like, oh, I like this TV, and walked out with it. Well, you've left the door wide open in your life. And so no wonder your time's being robbed. So I really appreciate, and again, I was the same way. When my kid was coming, the little baby, I was like, what would it take for me to literally be home with her every single day? So that her first, and at first it was just for a year. what if her first year of life, she could experience her dad as much or even more than her mom? Like, what would it take for me to do that? And it's the same thing you're saying. I had to start compressing 8 hours of work into like 1 hour of work, like really intense multiplier effect. And you can do it, man. You can do it. I would literally, I even found a way to be productive when I was, brushing my teeth. I would create content, and then I would set it to upload, and I would set my phone so that the content was uploading while I was brushing my teeth. And then when I'd be done brushing my teeth, the content was uploaded, right? And then I could make the text description to go with the post and then actually publish it, right? So I totally get it. One of the other things I love that you said is you kind of acknowledged the very human tendency to not realize how special your superpower is because it's something that comes easily to you. So you just tend to devalue how hard it is for other people. And in your case, you grew a really successful practice. But we both know, especially you, that for 90+% of healthcare business owners, even if they're making money, it's not like a successful, thriving lifestyle business. It's definitely more of the golden handcuffs type of business. But you were able to pull that off. And so because it came naturally to you, you just kind of assume that, well, it's not that hard. There must not be. So, and to your point, because you don't realize what a superpower it is, you went out to market and sold it for way less than what it was worth. Right.
Yeah.
And I bet you there's 1,000 people that are going to hear this episode that have a superpower that because it's something that comes easily for them. Like for me, it would be playing the piano. I just, it's something I was pretty good at. But I mean, and it's different because people, playing the piano is very few people's livelihoods. But in your case, you're unlocking the code to like making lots of money and having a great life. And if anything, I don't know what you charge, but I would say you should charge more, right? Like that's such a golden thing. So maybe you can speak to that. When did it click that like, I actually have a superpower, maybe I should charge superhero prices?
Well, what's interesting is when I first did it, I did like I'm just going to prove the thing to myself. And so I was charging like $300, right? And I worked with people for like 4 weeks and I was just showing them some stuff. And then I started realizing, people get pretty good results with this, but they don't respect it. They don't value it. They're like, oh yeah, I made some extra money. Like I'm making an extra $5-6 grand a month. I suppose it was worth it. I'm like, and at the time I was like, yeah, okay, sure. I guess like that makes sense. Like, it wasn't a massive result. They got a few extra clients. And now that I think back and I'm like, yeah, you spent $300 with me and you're making $5 grand a month extra. Like that's ridiculous.
Right.
And so then I started charging more. I was like, I'm going to charge $3,500 for this thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go above and beyond. It's going to be this 12-week thing, blah, blah, blah. And I was doing that for a while. And then I thought, you know what? I think that it's worth more than that. But I didn't own it yet. That's interesting. I'd made a couple $100,000, but I didn't own it yet because I hadn't accepted that, you know what, I'm going to draw a line in the sand. This thing is, effing valuable. And so then I increased my prices to I think it was like $5 grand or $5,800 or something like that. And conversion rates increased.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
More premium people were like, yep, okay. And more people signed up. They tended to get better outcomes because they took it more seriously. And I got paid more for what I was doing. It didn't stop the people who were, not going to do anything ever in their lives from doing stuff, but it meant that those who were more serious got better outcomes. So the gap between people who didn't get results and people who got results got bigger because people aren't going to do anything on a $20 product, and they're not going to do anything on a $5,000 product. Like it's just them. And I accepted that. I took that in as part of the consideration, but I focused on everyone else who's going to do stuff and went, what am I going to do to help them to get better outcomes? So I added to the program, of course, but psychologically they had more, self-investment in it. Then I just randomly increased my prices to $6,800 and conversion rate stayed the same. And I'm just continuing to increase fees as I go because I'm realizing that it's when the value exchange is you pay me 10 grand and I make you 100 grand in, 3 to 6 months for the average clinic who's not very busy and is not making much money. That's massive. You can't buy a stock and get a 10-time return on investment. You can't buy a house and get a 10-time return on investment in 3 to 6 months. Like it's luck, you know what I mean?
Right.
Buy a lottery ticket maybe, but investing in yourself and getting an outcome. But then there's these clients that do that and they make $1 million. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, maybe 6 months ago, interestingly, reasonably like recently, I've just become this massive hard ass. And I'm like, you know what? This thing is so valuable. It gets insane results, and I 100% own it. That if anyone questions me on price or value, I almost get offended. Now, I've trained myself to do that because what you may not know is that I had chronic severe anxiety for pretty much my entire life. So up until maybe a few years ago, it was controlling me. And so there's this tendency to overthink and overanalyze and be anxious about stuff. But I've just drawn a line in the sand now. I'm like, you know what? That's what it is, and this is how I price it. And in doing that, it's made me more certain of my ability to get results because I'm owning it more. And it's helping me to look more closely at all of the wins my clients have, not just the ones that struggle, because we tend to focus on the clients that struggle, and we value ourselves based on everyone, including those who don't do the work, don't pay attention, don't ask questions, or just struggle sometimes. Sometimes people just don't get results. But generally speaking, it's an implementation thing. So when I'm looking at it, I'm focusing on them, and I'm like, oh man, maybe my program's not valuable because this one person out of 50, really struggled, versus looking at all the ones who are winning and going, maybe I need to value it based on that. And so I've started doing that, and that little switch has made a massive change for me. I've focused on the people who win and helping them win more, and realizing the value is that, not making sure that every single person has a win, but helping those who implement and get results to get better results. That's where I realized that, hey, this is valuable. And specifically to your point about the superpower thing, I think that it was understanding that just because I haven't built the biggest clinic in the world, making billions of dollars, I'm not the Bezos of healthcare practices, right? The Amazon, doesn't mean that what I'm teaching is not valuable and that it's not going to help people. And understanding who my actual market is. My market is not people who have 50 clinics are making $100 million a year. And I'm supposed to, stand with the big boys and show them stuff. I don't care what they think of me because that's not my market. I'm speaking to the people who are doing, low six figures or under six figures and are wanting to go to mid six figures, maybe 7. That's my bread and butter. And those people do not know the stuff that I know, and they're struggling, and there's a lot that I can show them. And when I realized that the specific person I work with is the one who wants to learn the stuff that I'm showing them, and I just kept speaking as if this is what you want to learn. If they don't want to learn, and then I just go, okay, bye. And I keep just saying the same thing because I know that the right people are going to be there. That's what changed it. It's not constantly changing my messaging and my offer and everything every single day because the one person said no. So I'm like, shit, now I have to go back to the drawing board. It's like, no, I'm just going to speak my message and realize that there are plenty of people who are like me, who wanted someone to come along and say, this is how to do it to get them a better outcome. And those couple of things together made me realize what my value was. And when I proved it to myself, because I kept getting results, I realized that the measure of success is in my successful clients, and refine my message to speak more to them as I find more of them. And results over time, I've got better. I've got better clients. I've got less problems with clients. Like everything's got better because I've just focused more and more on who I get results for and want to work with, who sees value,
Yeah, I do. And again, it's like everything you say, there's like 5 things to unpack. And I'm like, well, pick one. But there's just so much truth in that. I mean, first of all, just the value of raising your prices and how, I think when people think a lot about pricing, depending on their business, honestly, even a restaurant, it's like your pricing is designed to just as much to repel the client that you don't want as to attract the client that you do. And I've had personal experience with it in numerous businesses. You raise your prices, conversions go up, customer quality goes up. And then you reach a point, like for me now in my business, like I want to raise prices again, but I want to feel so good about it when I do it that I'm just going to overhaul the product to make it so that it's so valuable that I start to feel stupid not charging more for it. Right. And it just becomes this ascension model in your own life and business where you charge more, you get better. You charge more, you get better. You charge more, you get better. Your clients get better. The results get better. And I love what you said. I don't think I've ever thought about it in those terms. That your entirety of your service orientation is around the best clients getting the best results. And if and we talk about this in sales, right? Like you feed your winners, in a sales organization, you want to push the best guy to do even better. You know, the medium guys are going to be inspired by the best guy more than probably anything you can do. And then the bottom guys, just let them go. They're not going to change. And it's ditto with your clients, right? Feed your winners. I think that's so powerful. And then you talked about being a hard ass. I just read Dan. Have you ever read the book by any of Dan Kennedy's No BS books?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh man. And to the audience out there, you want to know like the real no bullshit, hard ass truth about being an entrepreneur. All of Dan Kennedy's No BS book series. He's got one on the No BS guide to managing people and profits, which is like how you create culture, how you create discipline, how you're, you know, the tension between employees and owners, that the whole like kumbaya thing is a myth. And the reality is you have opposing interests. It's just the nature of the beast. And then he has one on productivity. And I just took this, and I don't know if this is a value to you, but I'm sure someone who's hearing this will get some value out of this. My partner is actually reading the one on productivity. He just said, okay, Jeff, new rule for us. Because our time's really valuable, right? I mean, just measured by revenue and time, right? And he's like, okay, we are not getting on another phone call without a cheat sheet before the call that allows us to prep for the call and know what the call's about. Like literally, we will not get on a call. Even like this interview, I will not get on an interview now. I mean, you know, when you came on, you had to fill out a form. My assistant like organized it. I have a sheet over here that's like, you know, got a little bit of biography and stuff, but ditto even with phone calls. Like if somebody wants to talk to me, and even if I want to talk to them, you know, I could create a web form. In this case, my assistant, she's the last gatekeeper. She's like, if Jeff doesn't have a sheet of notes before the call, he doesn't do the call, period. And we got it from Dan Kennedy, because he does these coaching calls, and he was able to, and he, you know, his time, he charged, I don't know what his coaching time is worth, $10,000 an hour or something. He does his coaching calls in 15 minutes because he gets all the niceties, all the catch up, so what have you been up to? How are things going? What are we here to talk about? What do you want to work on? He gets all that done beforehand by making them fill out a form. And so he gets on, and in 15 minutes, he's already read what there is to read, and he just tells them what they need to hear. I'm like, yes, love it, right? But that's the level of hard-assness that we're talking about.
Well, it comes from the fact that if you value your time as a resource, you don't spend it on bullshit, right? Like you're not spending it on stuff that doesn't matter. And the stuff that doesn't matter is, ironically, sometimes, as horrible as it sounds, is the little social things we do that make us feel nice for 5 minutes, or makes the other person feel nice for 5 minutes. And it's lovely. But in terms of a business thing, that if we did that 100 times a week and spent 5 minutes, like that's a lot of time that we're wasting. Like, and for example, and kind of back to the time thing, this is so relevant for people who do any kind of service-based stuff. You can always make how you deliver your services faster and more efficient. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, there's always a way to make it more efficient. And that right there can dramatically increase your capacity to serve clients, which in return increases revenue. And because you have to then structure more systems around it, you often improve your service quality, which then gets them better outcomes, because it has to be there, because you can't muck around when you have less time with people. So ironically, by trying to shave time creates efficiencies, which then make you give a better service, and that the value of your service doesn't come from your time. Health professionals get stuck in this idea that my value is my time. I'm like, dude, your value is not your time. That's a commodity. That person wants to chat to you. That you're not their friend. Like, you're not there to just chat about the weekend. And yes, they feel nice. And that one client, Mrs. Jones, loves it when you talk to her. But what you have to understand is that for every Mrs. Jones you spend an extra 15 minutes with, and you do that 10 times a week, you might have missed out on helping another 5 people who really need your help, not just to chat to you. And so you're there to give them an outcome. So how do we make that efficient? And I try and apply that to everything. So I love what you said about the phone calls and having structure around them, because my voicemail says, don't leave me a message, because I'm not going to check it.
Nice.
And text me, and I'll reply when I want to, because it's like, I'm not going to have you take up my time, ring me like, how's it going, man? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't answer phone calls. My friends hate it, but and now they just don't ring me, because I just don't answer them, because I'm like, I'm not available to have a chat right now, because I've got shit to do, because I got a kid, I got a wife, like I got to get my business going. And so it's like, how do I build efficiency into everything that I'm doing? Because my time is valuable. Not because I'm being arrogant and saying, well, my time's worth $1 million. I'm literally saying I don't have any more. Like, if I had $100 in my wallet, am I going to give you $5 because you want to get an ice cream? It's like, no, because I kind of need that $5 because I've got a kid I've got to buy clothes for and diapers and I've got to feed my family. Like, I'm not going to give you $5 because you want a movie ticket or whatever. Like, it's my only $100. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that if we think more about our time like that and think we're just giving it out, we're going to be a bit more hard ass about who we give it to and how we give it. And that naturally breeds efficiency, and you have to develop leverage. So I kind of don't interrupt me if you need to. When you're looking at your time and your money, if you're investing in something, like if I'm buying a house, I don't buy it cash. That's dumb because debt depreciates. So if I buy a house with as much debt as possible, in 10 years, that $1 million worth of debt is now worth less, right? It's not the same. They're not equivalent because the money is inflated and other things, right? So you're buying the house to appreciate in value. And the debt's going to depreciate. So let's get as much debt as possible and buy as many property as possible that pay for themselves. And you're going to be a millionaire very, very quickly. Now, the same thing goes with anything that you do. If you're buying, I don't trade like currencies or whatever, but if you're trading currencies, you buy $10 worth of a currency, it's kind of a waste. So you develop this leverage thing where you can buy $100,000 worth of it for your $1,000, and then your cents on the dollar, you make money. Your time needs to be the same thing. You need to develop leverage in your time so that 1 unit of time and 1 effort or whatever creates 10 result. Too many of us spend time doing one-to-one stuff. I'm going to make the phone call because I'm the best at it and blah, blah, blah. My clients, they're the ones who are like, I'm going to ring the client and book them in for an appointment, or I'm going to take their payment, etc. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's such a waste of time. They're like, no, but my clients love talking to me, or I need to do it because I'm the best at it. I'm like, okay, maybe you're the best at it, but aren't you better at other things? Develop some leverage, hire someone, make a system, automate it. And so for me, my passion is how do I remove myself from as much stuff as possible so that when I'm doing the thing, it's the thing that matters. And it's the thing that only I can do because it's, I'm the face of the business or whatever. And I've got leverage, just like I'm leveraging my money. And I really, like, I'm obsessed with this at the moment, which is thinking about time as a currency. I don't know where I'm going with this. But yeah, I think that developing that leverage, having those frameworks, like when you do it with those calls like that, I think that's gold. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make, if my family want to ring me, I'm going to be like, you got to fill out this form first.
Yeah.
Tell me what this is about.
I haven't, I'm not prepared to get that hardcore about it. Honestly, no, I'll tell you what I do. I have a hack. I have my notifications shut off on every single app on my phone, except for Snapchat. And I only have one small group of friends on Snapchat, which are my wife and kids. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that I get notifications on my phone for are when my family tries to contact me. By literally, I clustered them, I siloed them into a messaging app that I don't use with any of the rest of the world. So that's how I've been able to maintain a little bit of a difference in how I approach them versus the rest of the world. Because yeah, I mean, the rest of the world, I'm pretty ruthless. And by the way, you said it's not that I'm arrogant and I say my time's worth $1 million an hour. Maybe it's just from one lunatic to another, but I wouldn't think that was at all arrogant. I would be like, oh, what a visionary, man. He picked a really big number to build towards. Like, you have to. In fact, I have a video. It's a video where I talk about this thing that changed my life. And I showed this grainy old video in 2009, probably, when I started marketing online. And one of my mentors at the time told me, Jeff, you need to decide what your time is worth. And it's this old grainy video of me. I had like no money, no success, no results, no credibility, no leg to even stand on to say something like this. But in that video, I said, my time from this moment forward will be worth $1,000 an hour. And everything that I do will be consistent with that. And you know what's crazy? Within probably 60 days of making that video, when I was working, I was generating $1,000 an hour.
Yeah. I think that when you set an intention, and you have a clear, I'm heading in this direction and I'm immersed and like 100% committed to it, your brain, your brain tends to figure it out. Like, I don't want to go too deep on this, but I'll give you an easy example. If I said to you, and for everyone listening, if I said, don't think about an elephant, your brain tends to picture an elephant because I said the word elephant. Even though I said don't do it, your subconscious doesn't care. Your subconscious just hears elephant and it tries to predict what's going to go next. And it thinks, well, if he's saying elephant, maybe I need to think about elephants. Maybe I need to know about elephants. Maybe the conversation is going to go towards elephants. And so it tries to prepare for you. The irony is that if you pre-frame yourself with negativity, failure, limiting beliefs, you end up going down that road because you can't not do it. The example is like when you're going, if you're riding a motorcycle and they train you on riding motorcycles, if you're going to crash or slip, they don't say, look at where you're going to crash to. They say, look through the corner, look where you want to go, because
Right.
then you're allowing your body to just do its thing, which is to keep you alive, which is to take you through the corner. So in terms of decision-making, planning your business, your success, 100% immersing yourself in creating this real picture of what it is and must be allows your brain and body to just figure it out and get you there. And you've pre-framed yourself with the idea of the elephant so that now you're conditioned and your brain is going to go, cool, elephant, and it's going to go in that direction. I think that too many of us don't do that, and we don't realize how powerful our brain and body are in creating the reality for us. And we think that our reality is something we don't have any control over. But ironically, by not making decisions, by not taking actions, you are allowing your reality to be created by everything else that's influencing it, that you're just kind of washing your hands of. And people don't get that. Like the news you watch, the TV shows you watch, the people you have conversations with, the decisions you do and don't make, all influence your outcomes. So wherever you are, if you're unhappy, accept that it's your fault that you're there. Yes, shit can happen to you that, someone else did something to you, but how you choose to react to that and what you tell yourself about it will influence whether you have a good outcome or a bad outcome. I have clients that have been raped and sexually assaulted, right? That I'm working with in my practice. And some of them, their whole life is deteriorated and they have terrible outcomes and suffering. And I get it. I'm there to help them. And others become empowered and think this is never going to happen to me again. And they are empowering other women or have empowered themselves or have kind of had completely different outcomes. And those are extreme examples, but it's like what we tell ourselves about things and what we choose to focus on will influence our experience of life and what we achieve. So you just gotta be immersed. Like, this is where I'm going, $1,000 an hour. Like it's going to happen. And then you make decisions, ironically, that encourage that, and you meet people, and it's how it works. That's what happened to me. It's just like, that's what I'm going to do. And then I did it. I set a goal when I was like 24 or 5. I'm like, I'm going to make $1 million a year and I'm going to have 5 houses. Now at the time I didn't think about things more than that, but I was like, I'm going to have 5 houses. I now have 3. I could have had 10 if I bought cheaper ones, but I've got 3 $1 million properties. I'm making a couple million a year. I'm 29. I've got a beautiful family. I'm happy. I've got no anxiety, no depression. Like, I've solved all of that. My body's looking good. I'm at the gym. And I've suddenly achieved and ticked everything off of this decade in the space of 2 years. The preceding 8 was in preparation. 2 years, overnight success. Bullshit, not an overnight success. I've worked harder than you for longer than you and just not realized any potential because I understood that I was investing long-term, not expecting immediate outcomes now. Now, really quickly back to what we were talking about time and money. While I think that our time is valuable and you need to realize your time is valuable, I think what's more important is to not get fancy and to realize that at the start, your time isn't worth shit. So start investing your time in doing stuff that's going to make things happen. Don't get fancy and be like, well, my time is worth all of this and I'm not going to do that task. Because if you're broke and you got no money, you have to invest time. Like, there's only 2 resources, time and money. So if you don't have money, you spend time. If you don't have time, you spend money. Too many of us get fancy about our time and spend money on things we shouldn't, or get too fancy and think that our time's worth something and then not going to do that activity. And I think that we have to realize that you got to use the resources that you have, and at the start, invest your time, but just take time from other places that you're spending it. Like cleaning your house, for example. Too many of us clean our houses. I'm like, such a waste. Like, if you're making more than $20 an hour, pay someone to clean your house and spend 2 hours doing something that's going to make you more than $20 an hour. If I made $100 in the 2 hours when I would have been cleaning my house and I paid someone 40, people will say, you only made $100. Like, you paid them 40. That's a waste. I'm like, do you understand math? I just made $60 more than what I would have from saving the money of paying, but anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, so, and I love what you're saying about like, setting a value on your time is not an excuse to sort of like make life easier when you kind of don't deserve it yet, right? Like, you haven't earned it. But for me, when I made that decision, all of my time from that moment forward went into, or at least all the time that I could control, went into, I will learn the skills to make this the truth. And at that time, in that world, the number one lever that I saw that I could pull was to master search engine marketing. And I immediately, within an hour of shooting that video, at the time, this was 2009, I bought Perry Marshall's course on how to run Google AdWords. And I bought, and I started diving into that, and I started testing my own campaigns, and I became obsessive about mastering Google AdWords. Now that was then, frankly, it's still the truth. Search engine marketing is powerful. YouTube marketing is powerful. Building funnels is powerful. Writing copy is powerful. Optimizing your healthcare practice is powerful. Running Facebook ads is powerful. There's a million powerful things that could get you to $1,000 plus value per hour of time. So make the decision and then just obsessively focus on those things. And it, like you said, it doesn't mean just because you said it that now suddenly it's true. But because you said it, now it can be a true intention. And
You're
then
moving towards it.
yeah, and then every single thing in your life, at least that's related to that part of your life, should align with that intention. And if it doesn't, then, you know, who are you kidding? It's not hurting anyone else, it's hurting yourself.
100%. I think the key is to just do. Like, the most successful people that I've talked to did exactly that. They were just like, they made a decision. That's what I'm going to do now. I've got a direction. I'm just going to start going there. And everyone else, people who are not successful or are struggling or who are broke, for me, meaning broken money, broken time, broken emotion, broken in life and expectation and belief, tend to overthink. And they think that preparation is what's going to get them the outcome. Preparation is not going to get you outcomes in survival situations. Taking action is going to get you to survive. Sitting in your house when it's on fire thinking, okay, well, you know, where's the fire coming from? And is it this kind of fire or that kind of fire? Like, what hose is going to be the best to put it out? And which window should I go out of? Rather than just going, fuck, my house is on fire. Like, I kind of need to get out of here now. Let's just do some stuff and figure it out. That person's going to survive more. Now, I'm not saying don't plan, but what I'm saying is focus on taking actions more than planning. Because planning, you can get stuck in planning and you just plan for planning's sake. And there's plenty of people who have got planned out this, how their business is going to be, how their life's going to be when they have it, what their logo is going to look like. And then meanwhile, I'm just flying past, just fanging out on a, you know, the motorcycle is shooting past them and they're trying to plan out how they're going to build this car that they're going to sit in. I'm like, dude, just grab something and just let's just start going. And we'll plan as we go, because they realize that speed of implementation is key. Now, where, you know, I'm not where you are, but where we are at this point, it becomes more about tactically planning outcomes because you can't do everything. But at the start, it's like, you got to do stuff. You know what I mean? Jump into something. I did all kinds of crap. I used to watch loads of videos, learning everything, trying everything, because I didn't know what I liked, enjoyed, or was good at yet. I didn't realize certain things. And all of it allowed me to know enough to then have the rocket fuel to get to where I am. But had I not just taken actions, I wouldn't be where I am.
Well, I like that you said plan as you go. I mean, that's it, man. Plan as you go. If you're not going, don't bother planning. And but if you are going, by all means plan so that your going isn't aimless. But I mean, I think that's what you're talking about is the volume of people who are planning and they think they need their plan to get to a point where they will then have, I guess, their self-given permission to go. And I will tell you that planning is something that can be accelerated, and nothing accelerates the planning phase like already being in motion, where you realize I got to get my plan together or else my action is going to exceed my plan by too far and it's going to become a liability. So I got to plan as fast as I'm already moving.
That's you hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. You'll get a year's worth of planning done in a week if you're already in motion.
That's because you got that pressure, and this is what comes back to the start we talked about with my kid, right? I'm not advocating for people to go out and have kids and try and make $1 million, but it's like when you got a kid, suddenly time is compressed, and so immediately you're in motion. So you have to make sure that you're planning effectively to produce an outcome, not being aimless in your action or aimless in your planning. That's kind of my thesis for today, I think. Yeah.
So let's talk about it. It's end of the year, 2020, heading into 2021. I can't wait to have 2020 in my hindsight, so to speak. Although it's been, you know, business-wise, it's been the best my business literally has ever grown in 1 year. But it just the energy, man. Let's be done with that. Plus, I miss events. I want to get together. I want to connect with people. I want to take my son to New Zealand. But so. What are you with the people that you're working with right now? What are you kind of orienting them towards in the new year? What do you think is the right stuff to be focused on in growing a business, kind of with where the world is right now, heading into the new year?
I'm a believer in continue to do what's working, do it in spite of what else is going on, because the skills you develop in that will always serve you in the world. It's not the Walking Dead zombie apocalypse. Like things will get to a place where, and I might be, being overly positive, but things will get to a place of a sense of normality, and that normality will have changed. But I think that if we're trying to overcompensate for stuff, we tend to go down the wrong route without just looking at, using the past to predict. And so for me, it's like when COVID happened, I taught people to go online. But that kind of went away relatively quickly for a lot of them. And so really for my clients, it's double down on building your tribe, building your audience, and bringing them to a place where you can influence them in isolation. So we're focusing a lot on like Facebook groups and developing audiences and things like that, where it doesn't matter what happens. You've always got these people. When my practice closed, and you can see it in my revenue graph in my clinic, it's like, boom, dead because we locked down, straight back, biggest month ever. So the graph, if you look at the trend, it's still going like this.
Right.
But it's just got these divots in it because we were closed. Everyone else is it closed, and then it's like, oh, the income's crap. And it's because we had an audience. We had people who value us, so that when we open our doors, they just filled back in again. And it didn't matter what was going on around us. So I'm focusing on value orientation for them, delivering value to their audience. And therefore for me too, like 2021 is all going to be about making my program even better, making my mastermind even better, delivering even more value, and creating a larger gap between where I am and where all the competition is. Because then you just can't traverse it because I'm just so far ahead. That's why I got my podcast coming out. I got a new book coming out next year. All these things just set me apart. And that's what I'm teaching my clients as well.
Yeah. So that begs the question. I mean, what do you think now that you realize what a superpower it was? Why do you think you were able to grow your first practice so successfully when that's something that so many people struggle to do? I mean, from a mindset and habits perspective, like who were you that you did that? But also tactically, like what were you actually doing that was so successful so quickly?
I immersed myself in everything to do with how do I get my message in front of people. So online marketing stuff, Facebook ads, email marketing, everything, including like live events, and we do health screenings and things like that. Really looking at how can I get my message in front of people, and then how do I refine my message, and then how do I refine my process so that I have absolute certainty that when I'm talking to you and you tell me that you have chronic headaches, then I'm 100% belief that I can solve that problem for you and give you a better life. Because then when I communicate with you about it, it's just rock solid. There's no question. So when you question it, I'm almost like, why are you questioning it? Versus going, oh, I guess that he's seen through it and oh my God, like my thing's crap. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like knowing what I do, how I do it, how I say it, the value, and then just getting that in front of as many people as humanly possible and doing anything possible to make that happen. Because I knew that once I brought people in front of us, once we had a conversation, I could get them in for an appointment. Once we had them in for an appointment, I could get them in for care. Once I had them in for care, I could get them results, and the cycle continued. And so I just became solid in each of those stages, and then just did it in spite of fear, did it in spite of what anyone else said, and just focused on my lane and my voice only, and positive voices, obviously. And that just cut the rest of the crap out.
So you said focusing on what I do, how I do it, and then you said some pretty magic words, I think, how I say it. You hear a lot of people say, I got to be master, I got to get good at what I do, and I got to know how I do it. I mean, that's like common. But you don't hear as many people say, but I got to master how I say it. Now, you and I both host podcasts. You and I both speak a lot. We've spoken on stages. We go on other people's shows. Like we're practicers and practitioners of intentional articulation. Like we've typically thought all the words that we say long before we said them, right? Or at least the idea is at the core of the words. But most people, I do not think that's a part of their craft of delivering service, is like practicing in the mirror, how they convey their diagnosis or convey their prescription or whatever. Is that something you work a lot with your students or your clients on, is like mastering the art of saying what's in their head?
100% certainty of what they're saying, and then the polish and the finesse comes second. What I don't want people to do and don't want them to take from this is that you need to be the best at what you do and have the entire alphabet after your name because of all the qualifications and courses. I think that's bullshit. And I think that too many of us prevent ourselves from having success by trying to be the best technician at the thing. I think that what's more important is to get the result, yes, and then move on to being the best communicator of that, because that's where the value comes. And so when I said I'm being good at what I do, I had to make sure that I could get the outcome. That's it. I didn't go and try and get fancy and learn a bunch of extra stuff. I just said, get the outcome. Yes. Now 90% of it is getting the message out there effectively and being certain of what I do And the last 10% is like the showmanship polish of it. But I think that the certainty of my value in my message is what's important. And then all the showmanship stuff that makes it just that little bit better, took it to the next level. But it's like 10% the technician stuff, 80% being certain and having the right message, 10% polish of the communication side of things is kind of what I'd put.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, that feels like a right ratio based on my experience in, other non-healthcare related businesses, that you have to know more than the person you're talking to. If they're going to be your client, you should know more about the thing than they do. And obviously in healthcare, there's certain credentials and such, and you need to know enough to get the result. But man, that communication piece, I get so many people, and I don't do so much private coaching anymore, but when I did, so many people talking about not getting the results in their business, almost like it's unfair. Like, I do this and I do it well, and I do all this stuff, and nobody likes me, nobody buys from me, boo-hoo. And it's like, well, first of all, fairness is not a thing. That's like, I guess, something that kids think is a real thing. And fairness is what defeated people obsess over. So let's get rid of the fairness concept now. Stand in front of a video camera and record yourself talking about your service to your client, or closing a sale, and usually as soon as people have, you put their way they communicate under the microscope, you find out really quick. And I would say 90% of the people that aren't getting the results they want usually suck at communicating about their business. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. It's not your skills. It's you suck at communicating. That's what it is. You're good enough. You are good enough. You just got to get better at communicating that you're good enough. That's what I think.
Yeah. And that's not something that people should be all butthurt about. That's liberating. Oh, sweet. You mean I don't need to go back to school and get more credentials? Yeah. I just need to practice communication and I can 10x my income. Awesome. At least that's how I would take it. But, well, listen, man, I know we're about out of time and we both have other appointments coming up. How can the world come get into your world deeper, both for you as an influencer and content creator, and then obviously specifically healthcare people who would love to access your services?
I created a page. So if you go to healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/millionaire secrets,
cool.
You can jump in there and there's resources. If you're a health professional, I've got a whole lot of stuff for you specifically to help you grow your practice, grow your influence, grow your business. And if you're not a health professional, but you're wanting to have more success in business and life, mindset, things like that, there's also resources there for you as well. What I recommend is that you really just listen to more people like us have these conversations and realize that we don't talk about tactical things. We're not talking about how long the video should be and what your thumbnail should be and what your bidding strategy is on Facebook. It's all about mindset and implementation and the strategy of business, not the tactics. And I think that's super important. I've realized that on my show, like the conversations with high level people like yourself, is we're talking about implementing on things and mindset. And I think that people need to get that no matter where you are, that's what's going to get you success, and the tactics and strategies will follow, but mindset's key. So check it out, healthcarebusinesssecrets.com/millionaire secrets, and you'll be able to get a copy of my book and other resources there.
Cool. And obviously we'll put that link in the description wherever this appears, but on the podcast platforms and on YouTube. James, my friend, Dr. Watt, this has been incredible, man. I'm so grateful you came on the show and that we got to pick up the last conversation, and I'll look forward to future dealings, man. So thanks so much for being here.
Really appreciate it. Had a heaps of fun. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, this is great. And to everyone in the audience, viewers and listeners, thank you so much for being the best part of Millionaire Secrets. You are why we do what we do every day. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for watching Millionaire Secrets. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave us a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know whenever we release a new episode. Also, if you want to learn the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy, click the link in the description below to claim your free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut. And don't forget, Millionaire Secrets is available on all the major podcast platforms as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can listen on the go. Thanks for watching.